Welcome back to the Embodied Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Barnett, and this is the beginning of a series on NLP, neurolinguistic programming, so that you as the listener can understand a little bit more about how our mind operates and the context with which I will be speaking about how to empower yourself to create the reality that you want to really embody the person, the entrepreneur that you want to embody so that you can have the best results possible in the way that you define success for yourself. So we are going to dive in and kind of talk about what NLP is and some things to think about on how our brain operates and give you some insights on what you can start to think about and be aware of for yourself when you notice your thoughts. So just a little bit of background. I currently have a certification in EFT tapping, emotional freedom techniques. There is a past episode of the Embodied Entrepreneur Podcast that you can go back and listen to that talks all about EFT and what it does. But for a while now, I had been wanting to dive even deeper. I'm a lifelong learner. This is just kind of part of what I love to do. I find something I'm fascinated in and I dive right in and I keep going. So when I was little, I remember I was the oldest of three kids, and my youngest sibling, my brother, would not eat his eggs in the morning. And we were trying to get him to eat more protein. So I just remember one day I scrambled some eggs for him, and then I put some American cheese on top. I'm not saying it was healthy, but he ate them. He ate them. And I also called them weasels with cheese. And something about calling it a different name, something shifted in his perception, and he thought, wow, that might be kind of fun to eat, and he ate them. So I remember at a very young age, I was probably like 10 or 11, maybe 12 at that point when I learned this, when this happened, and I was like, oh, wow, it's just by like changing the words, by changing the picture that he creates in his mind from the words that I use, his perception of that thing has changed, and now his behavior has changed into the behavior that we wanted for him to have. Now, of course, this has to be done within ecology, is what we'd call it in NLP, but like it has to be a win-win situation. And so, yes, we got him to eat his protein, which is also a healthy choice for him too. So anyway, I learned that at an early age, that if we change our words, if we change the perception of something for somebody, then they are going to see it differently and their behavior is going to change. So it started all the way back then. I was a coach for many, many years in gymnastics, and I was always really good at, first of all, getting into rapport with kids and rapport with the parents. And I was able to just, again, use different senses. So I remember like on uneven bars, if you don't know anything about gymnastics, just I'll try my best to explain. One of the events is the uneven parallel bars. Just think about the Olympics back in the day, or right now if you still watch it. And I would tell the girls, I was like, okay, do you hear the bar, how the bar made that sound, like brrr sound? That means you let go too early. And so they would get that. Or if I were to if I was teaching them about swinging on the bar, I would talk about physics. I would say the further back you pull this lever and then release it, it's going to swing higher on the other side too. Equal and opposite forces, right? But by using visuals, I could help them. And then I would also break down skills and literally hold their bodies and put them into the position that they needed to be in order to create that force that then would have an equal and opposite force that would help them to create this skill, like to complete the skill properly. So kinesthetically, I was taking them through positions. There's so many, like, so those are the main ways that I did it, but there's so many different ways that I realize now I was actually using NLP to help them change their behavior and get better results, which I was really good at. When I started coaching online for nutrition, it was kind of the same thing. But what I realized is that I just needed more tools. I really wanted to have more tools in my toolbox so that anybody can show up in front of me, and I don't have to use my experience, prior experience, as the only tools that I have to help somebody. I have literal pages full of modalities and techniques that I can use right then to help them to empower them to have the outcomes they want. So I found the certification, the Anchored Coaching Certification with Julie Costa. It had 6 different certifications. One of them is EFT, so I'm excited to get to that part of it again and dive even deeper into that modality. But NLP is one of the certifications, EFT, time techniques, clinical hypnotherapy, certified life coach, and certified success coach. Super excited about all of them. And I got started in January of 2024. And at this timing of this recording, we are ending our 2nd month, which is crazy. I graduate in June. So I wanted to document what I'm learning, have a place to document what I'm learning, and also have a reference, a resource for you, so that within the context of this podcast, you're able to understand what I'm talking about and where this is coming from. So this is laying the foundation of NLP. Okay, I'm interrupting this podcast really quick because I'm so excited to tell you about my Mindset Mastery digital library. This is finally like that Netflix for your mind that you've been looking for, and you can actually feel good binging. This is an ever-growing library of quick EFT tapping videos designed to help you to reprogram your subconscious mind so that you get more of what you want. Inside this library, you're going to have instant access on demand to tapping videos like tapping into abundance, releasing self-sabotaging behavior, letting go of resistance, welcoming in success, creating a vision for success, protecting your energy, selling with confidence, tapping to get shit done, how to take radical responsibility, and audios like the learning state, which is a powerful mindset state where you can't experience negative emotions, and therefore you get to show up in a more empowered state. Plus, there's one monthly group coaching call every single month for you to come in, ask your questions, and get support from me and the other members inside the group. Best of all, we're going to be adding videos every single month, and coming in June of 2024, even more subconscious tools, including hypnosis tracks and subliminal recordings, will be uploaded as well. This library is going to get more and more valuable as I add more and more videos throughout the year. So you want to join now, as it's the lowest price it will ever be. Dream big, because it's all happening for your highest good on your timeline or sooner. And if you are a loyal subscriber to this podcast, head to the show notes because you get a special discount to join the library today. So I do have my notes in front of me because I want to make sure things are accurate. So bear with me. But we're going to start with the definition of NLP and we're going to break it down. So it's neuro-linguistic programming. And the neuro part is your mind, your brain, your nervous system. And we take in the information through our nervous system. So we do that with our 5 senses. Just think about your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, your skin, and even the self-talk that you have inside of you right now. So those 5 senses are going to bring that into, the self-talk comes in the linguistic portion. So neuro is 5 senses that we experience life and we bring that into our awareness. Then the linguistic portion is the language that we use. It's the language that we have inside of us already, self-talk. And it's how we store the communication, the language and the communication that we store. The linguistic part is the language and other communication, because language is only 7% of how we communicate. The rest is our tone of voice, our physiology really is important. And we'll talk about that more further as we continue on. But we do this by the pictures, sounds, feelings, tastes, smells, and then our internal dialogue as well. So that's the linguistic part, the words. And the programming part is discovering and using these programs, these patterns and strategies that we have going on in our mind, and how we use that to achieve our goals. So this is the basic language of our mind. and how we consistently use it to create results that we want in our life. We're looking for the results that we want, not what we don't want. Another definition that I really love is that NLP is the user manual to your mind that you never got, the lost user manual, which I absolutely love that definition. It paints a very clear picture. So you can look at the language that you use in your everyday life and find clues within that of how you are creating the results in your life. So there is the formula for success in NLP is creating empowerment for our clients, for ourselves first, and then our client. So we can either be at cause for things that happen in our life, or we can be at effect. We want to go towards cause. So we want to be at cause for everything in our life, which means we take responsibility, radical responsibility. At times is not easy to do for our life. We're not blaming ourselves. We are not shaming ourselves. We're just taking responsibility for what we do next. So there are things in our life that happen that we cannot control, but given those circumstances, what are you going to do next? That's the question I want you to ask. And if there's a specific area in your life that's just not going well for you, there's a prediction in NLP that you're probably at effect of something in that area. And we just want to shift you over to being at cause for everything that happens in your life. Okay, so that is NLP, and that is talking about empowerment, moving from effect to cause in life and operating from a psychology of excellence. Okay, so how the heck does this information get into our brain, and how are we actually creating our reality? Because sometimes when I hear people say that, and when I've heard someone say that in the past, is that you create your reality. I think Jen Sincero has that saying, you create your reality. And I've heard that in many, many other ways. I'm like, well, how though? Like, okay, fine, but like I need to know the how. So I'm going to talk about the NLP communication model here, and it's essentially how we create our reality. So we are taking in information around us all the time from our external world. And we do this through our five senses, right? The neuro part of it. We're taking in this information. In fact, it's so much information. It's 2.3 million bits per second. Just imagine that. That's a lot. And that's too much for us to hold in our conscious awareness. So our brain does this nifty thing, and this happens quickly. We delete, distort, and generalize that information down into 126 bits per second, which is still too much for our brain to take for obvious reasons. There's a lot going on there. And we actually break it down to 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of data there. So that's just the big thing to think of, is like 2.3 million bits down to 126 bits. Like, just keep that in mind. That's a big chunk down. And we do this through the filters in our mind. So like the time of day, the location that we're in, the mood that we're in, the language that we're using, our memories, our beliefs, our identities, our values, all of this is happening quickly and subconsciously to delete information that we think is unnecessary, or deem that it's inaccurate. We distort information. We will blow things out of proportion. We will minimize things. We will attach meaning to things that maybe doesn't make sense to attach meaning to. And we'll generalize things to avoid having to process this information again. If it looks like something we've seen before, we'll generalize that down into, oh yeah, they looked at me this way before, so that means they're mad at me. That's what this means right now. And we create this internal representation of 126 bits per second. This happens per second. It's happening to you right now. Don't think about it, you'll freak out. And then we take that internal representation, and it comes down to our state, our internal emotions that we have at that moment. Are we feeling sad already? Are we feeling empowered already? And we are in charge of our state. We can change that. It also interacts with our physiology. How are we sitting? Are you slumped over? Are you sitting nice and tall? What is your body posture looking like? And this turns into, it chooses our behaviors. That's how we choose our behaviors, how we feel, the thoughts that we have pulled from this information, and then we create our behaviors, and our behaviors create our results. One of the best stories that Julie told during our certification was, imagine you're at the biggest buffet you have ever been to in your entire life. In fact, this buffet is so big that you actually need to have like a little butler come and help you because there's so many choices. There are 2.3 million dishes that you can choose from in that buffet. So this little butler's like, I know it's overwhelming. He comes up with his little hat on. He's like, this is so overwhelming. I know. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to bring you only 126 dishes for you to have. And you're like, oh, that's so helpful. Thank you so much. So he runs off, he picks 126 different dishes to bring to you. He brings it to you, presents it to you, and you look at it, and it is 126 options of everything that you hate. Just think of all the foods you really despise, you don't like it at all, and now you have 126 of them right there. You can choose at that moment. You can say, well, this is the worst freaking buffet I've ever eaten at. I'm never coming back here again. It's awful. Or you can simply go ask for another platter. You can go get a new plate. You can go back to that buffet of 2.3 million options and find the stuff that you like. Find the evidence that you like and bring that into your reality. But the choice is yours. That's what our brain does. It filters it down. So our job in NLP is to help you go from a place where you're probably finding things that you don't like in your reality and helping you to create more empowering choices, to extract the information that will best help you to be to get to the level of success that you want, to be your best self. So that is the goal with NLP. I love that story because it really does paint the picture of how our brain narrows things down. Okay. So yeah, that is the basis of the NLP communication model. And that is the basic understanding foundation of NLP. So as you can see, understanding how we take information in, how we process that information, and how that then translates into the behaviors that we choose and the results that we get. This helps you to be more empowered to really be aware of what information is coming in. What is your brain automatically deleting, distorting, generalizing, and turning into your reality? And can we look back at that data and say, what else could be true here? What is more empowering for me to do, for me to extract from this? And this really helps by having somebody who's certified in NLP, somebody who is a certified coach that can listen to the language that you're using and help to pull this out of you. And there are so many modalities that go along with creating behavior change through this model that I'm literally learning one every single week, at least one, sometimes two. And I'm excited to break those down. But for now, we're going to leave it at that, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Embodied Entrepreneur Podcast.